There are places on Earth where the maps go silent, where satellites glitch, and even whispers get lost in the wind. In the heart of Alaska, buried beneath ice and time, lies a mystery no government dares to name. They call it the Black Pyramid. It's not on official charts, but seismic records don't lie. In 1992, a pulse of energy shook the ground, stronger than Hiroshima, yet no earthquake was ever recorded, no explanation offered, only silence. And then the disappearances began. Scientists, military teams, locals, one by one they vanished, without signal, without trace. Some say they wandered into the snow, others believe they were taken. But stories persisted of a machine sleeping beneath the mountains, a structure older than the Ice Age, not made of stone, but something darker, smoother, smarter, perfect geometry beneath chaos, and always humming, always watching. We came here chasing science. What we found was something else, something that doesn't want to be found, and yet has left clues everywhere, in the ice, in the air, and maybe deep inside our own memory. Satellites fail, equipment dies, entire missions are erased. Again and again, one point on the map resists observation. The pyramid doesn't just hide beneath ice, it blinds the sky above it. Yet its shape echoes across the planet. In Egypt, in Mesoamerica, even in ancient Siberian carvings. Civilizations that never met, drawing the same triangle, the same angles, the same eye. Were they remembering something lost, or responding to the same signal? Some say it's a power source, others a beacon, not broadcasting to us, but waiting for a reply. Perhaps it already has one. In low hums beneath the glacier, in dreams, in static, in the sudden flood of thoughts that don't feel like our own. Inside, things change. Clocks stop. Direction loses meaning. And sometimes, people speak in languages they never knew. Scribble symbols they've never seen. They say it feels like stepping into a cathedral. One not built for worship, but for awakening something older than God. The pyramid doesn't just exist. It affects. It adapts. And it remembers. Beneath the surface, the pyramid pulses, not with light, not with heat, but with presence. Something vast, something waiting, not passive, but patient. Animals avoid it. Even wind seems to hesitate around its perimeter. And when the snow clears, black walls appear where none were yesterday. As if it grows, not with time, but with attention. One fragment pulled from the site matched no mineral on Earth. Another began to vibrate the moment it was touched. Some researchers call it a node in a forgotten network. Others fear it is a vault or a gate. The further we go, the more it changes us. Scientists dream of stars they've never studied. Explorers wake with scars in the shape of symbols. And when they speak, their voices don't always sound like their own. The deeper we descend, the thinner the veil becomes. Space folds, memory loops. And at some point, we stop asking, "What is this place?" and start wondering, "How long have we been here?" We came to study the unknown, but now we ask, are we still outside of it, or already inside? There was no sign, no gate, no border, just a subtle shift barely perceptible, like crossing from a dream into someone else's. One moment, the terrain felt like Earth. The next, something else entirely. In the Forbidden Zone, your tools fail first. GPS loops, compasses spin, sound dies. The laws we take for granted, gravity, direction, even time, begin to bend. Not in chaos, but with precision, as if recalibrated by something older, colder, and vastly more intelligent. And yet, the deeper they moved, the more it began to make sense. Not logically, not scientifically, but intuitively. The air itself felt encoded. The landscape began to echo their movements. The snow melted not from heat, but from invitation. As if the pyramid, buried for eons, was no longer hiding. It was opening. They weren't just moving forward. They were being received. Inside, the architecture shifts. Not randomly, but in response. Doors vanish. Corridors change angle. Walls rearrange when no one is watching. This isn't design. It's awareness. The deeper they descended, the more the line blurred. Between structure and memory, between engineering and emotion. Symbols appeared in dreams, then reappeared on walls. Triangles within triangles. Spirals that mirrored brainwaves. Stone that pulsed with breath, but not air. Light that cast no shadow, but revealed everything. And then, reflection. Not metaphorical, literal. Rooms where water sat unnaturally still, reflecting constellations that didn't match the current sky. Mirrors that didn't show you, but what you remembered being. The pyramid didn't just respond to the team, it began to reflect them. And in doing so, it reminded them of something they could no longer explain, but deeply, deeply recognized. It wasn't teaching them anything new. It was helping them remember something they had somehow always known. At its core, the structure revealed nothing. No throne, no treasure, no answers. Only space, perfectly silent, geometrically impossible, and yet unmistakably alive. And in that silence, one question resonated, not spoken, not written, but felt. Why did you return? Because the truth may be this: the Black Pyramid was never a monument. It was a memory, a message carved into the earth, not in words, but in frequency, in form, waiting for a mind, not a body, to find its way back. They weren't explorers. They were echoes. They weren't the first to find it. They were simply the first to hear it again. And as they emerged back into the frozen air, marked by symbols they couldn't see and frequencies they couldn't forget, they knew this: they didn't open the pyramid. It let them in because something inside remembered them. And now they would never truly leave. They thought they were mapping a structure, but the deeper they went, the more it became clear. This wasn't architecture, it was awareness. Geometry that watches. Space that learns. The walls didn't just hold up the pyramid. They responded, changed, bent around intention. Rooms rearranged not with tools, but with thought. The triangle wasn't a symbol. It was a sensor, a resonance key. It didn't unlock anything in the stone, but in the people. Light refracted into impossible shapes. Angles that curved. Doors that opened only when no one looked at them. And when the team tried to document these changes, they vanished. As if the act of measuring broke the spell. One by one, each explorer stopped asking, "Where does this go?" and began asking instead, "What is this showing me?" That was when the real map emerged. Not across the floor, but across their minds. This was no longer exploration. It was initiation. Every step deeper dissolved another layer of certainty. They entered a chamber where gravity shifted, not suddenly, but gradually, like the laws of physics were optional, not enforced. Where a breath could trigger glyphs. Where silence made the walls breathe. The triangle, the spiral, the eye, ancient symbols repeated across cultures. Here, they weren't carved. They were embedded into space, recurring, refracting, reforming. They didn't need to be translated. They needed to be felt. In one corridor, a reflection didn't show the self, but variations of it. Older, younger, alien. Emotional responses triggered spatial distortion. Memory triggered passageways. And beyond that, even names dissolved. People weren't addressed. They were recognized by frequency. They were no longer guests in a structure. They were participants in a living system. One designed not to teach, but to awaken something already inside them. This was not architecture. This was mind written in stone. At the core, the pyramid offered no treasure, no relic, only choice. In the final chamber, there was only light, a floating triangle, no heat, no sound, just perfect stillness. It didn't ask. It waited. And as each explorer stepped forward, the pyramid didn't open. They did. Breath slowed. Thought stopped. And something else entered. A resonance. A recognition. Like remembering a song you'd never heard, but somehow knew the lyrics too. They returned changed, but the pyramid stayed the same. Silent. Cold. Dormant until the next alignment. What if the triangle wasn't built to honor gods or map stars? What if it was memory itself, encoded in geometry, activated by emotion, passed across time? Some called it a machine, others a monument, but those who entered called it a mirror. Because deep beneath the ice, under stone and silence, the pyramid wasn't waiting to be found. It was waiting to be remembered. They were not gods, not in the way we worship, not in the way we imagine. They were builders, engineers of resonance, shapers of intention. They worked not with machines, but with meaning. Their tools were geometry, frequency, and silence. We came expecting ruins, dead stone, echoes of something lost. But what we found was alive. Corridors that shifted with our breath. Rooms that opened not with force, but with presence. Nothing responded to touch. Everything responded to alignment. The triangle wasn't a symbol, it was a function, a filter, a bridge. It didn't point to something, it was something. And if you moved with it, thought with it, breathed with it, you entered a different kind of architecture. One built for consciousness, not shelter. This place didn't teach. It remembered. And through it, we began to remember too. The pyramid didn't speak in language. It spoke in geometry, in pulses of light, in the quiet that settles when the mind lets go. It didn't care what we believed. It only responded to who we were. And as that response grew, something else awakened. Not in the stone, but in us. Because maybe the pyramid wasn't meant to be studied. Maybe it was meant to be felt. There were rooms that didn't respond to light or sound, but to something else. Presence. You could scan every surface, take every measurement, and still see nothing. But if you exhaled, quieted your thoughts, and simply existed, the space began to shift. Shapes emerged. Patterns revealed themselves. Not from action, but from attention. Some rooms didn't remember facts. They remembered feelings. a fear you forgot, a silence you carried. These spaces didn't record, they resonated. They tuned themselves to your mind, but only when the mind went silent enough to be heard. And that's when we understood. The pyramid wasn't meant to be unlocked. It was meant to be aligned with. Every wall, every glyph, every corridor formed a feedback loop. Not mechanical, but conscious. This wasn't architecture. It was memory, made spatial. We weren't stepping into a monument. We were stepping into a mirror. One that didn't just reflect who we were. It revealed how ready we were to remember what we'd buried, and how deeply the silence had been waiting to respond. There was no final message etched in stone, no great key hidden in the dark. What waited instead was silence, not empty, but aware. In that silence, we felt something looking back, not a being, not a machine. Something formless, yet fully present. An intelligence that didn't need shape, only resonance. In the deepest chamber, the triangle didn't speak. It pulsed. And with each pulse, something stirred, not in the structure, but in us. Our breath slowed. Thought faded. We stopped searching for answers and started listening. Not with ears, but with memory older than thought. That's when we understood. This place was not here to explain anything. It was here to reflect. What we heard wasn't alien. It was familiar, ancient yet close. Like a voice from a forgotten dream. The engineers left no instructions, only alignment. A resonance waiting to be recognized. And once we did, the final truth became clear. We hadn't discovered the pyramid. It had remembered us. And its echo wasn't foreign. It was human. It didn't begin with thunder, but with a ripple. A subtle shift, easy to miss, until it wasn't. Across frozen ground and magnetic fields, the Black Pyramid responded. Lights flickered beneath the surface. Frequencies rose from silence. Something ancient stirred, not in the sky, but in the marrow of the earth. As scientists scrambled for answers, the structure pulsed again, not outward, but inward. Rooms reacted to presence, not movement. Glyphs shifted with breath. This wasn't a monument. It was a system, sentient, waiting for resonance. And after millennia, the signal had returned. Belief didn't matter. What mattered was alignment. Those who aligned felt it first. Pressure behind the eyes. A silence that vibrated. A memory rising, not learned, but remembered. Around the world, others felt it too. Not with instruments, but with instinct. Children drew triangles. Elders hummed forgotten tones. Migration paths bent, not by chance, but by design. The Black Pyramid didn't transmit. It remembered. And in that remembering, it began to awaken the only system vast enough to reflect it. Us. Deep inside, what we called chambers revealed themselves, not as rooms, but as mirrors. Not reflective, but responsive. Step in with anger, and nothing changed. Step in with stillness, and the space began to breathe. Geometry shifted with emotion. Sounds rose from memory. This place wasn't meant to be studied. It was meant to teach, through presence, not words. Thoughts became keys, feelings, coordinates. The body, a tuning fork. We weren't unlocking the pyramid. It was reconfiguring us, removing static, sharpening awareness. As the glyphs pulsed faster, understanding grew. We weren't outsiders. We were part of the system. The interface wasn't technology, it was the human being. Then came convergence. Light met memory. Voice met frequency. The earth shimmered, triangles aligning with stars older than ice. Reality didn't collapse. It curved gently around truth. The Black Pyramid was not a monument. It was a seed, a rhythm, a remembering mechanism waiting for coherence. And when that coherence returned, we didn't just receive the signal, we became it. The final phase didn't arrive with drama. It came in stillness, so complete it bent the air. The pyramid didn't glow brighter. It glowed closer. Its light no longer shone at us, but through us. Breath aligned with the grid. Pulse echoed through stone and ice. And then the earth pulsed back. This wasn't alien tech. It was memory, stored in crystal, in water, in us. We were never disconnected, just dormant. Now, something had tapped us, not to control, but to invite. Back into rhythm. Across the planet, something unified. Beyond words, beyond time. The Black Pyramid didn't command. It mirrored. And in doing so, offered something sacred. The choice to step in. It never closed a gate. It completed a circuit. One that had always been there. Beneath the noise of centuries. We hadn't activated it. It had remembered us. And now, it watches. Not with judgment, but with resonance. As we choose what to do with a memory no longer lost.